I want to talk about some stuff that's getting easier for us bloggers in terms of SEO. And the first thing I have noticed lately, and actually over the last year or so, is that domain authority is becoming less of a factor. And I see this in the search results when I'm doing topic research, when I'm looking for new topics to write on, that more and more smaller sites are appearing at the top if they have a really good question and a really good title and just basically good content. And this is great news for us. I noticed that Anne Moss also commented on this in her latest interview over with the Niche Pursuit guys. She was talking about how she's also seeing domain authority becoming less of a factor. So more and more bigger sites can be pushed down if you have a really good article that's more on point. And the thing is that many times a big site like Forbes or something would rank just if the major keywords were in the article or in the title, then Google would somehow prefer them and surface them above something that was actually way better content. And it's really, really great to see this starting to change and Google starting to put smaller sites toward the top. I'm really happy to see that, of course, because I'm teaching a lot of you guys to build new sites that obviously have less authority in the beginning. As I'm editing this, I realize there's a point that's not really coming across as clearly as it should and as it could be. So I want to emphasize that you can beat a bigger site such as Forbes if the article they have up there does contain the keywords, but it's not really targeting exactly what you typed into Google. So that means that you are sort of competing against a huge site, and the keyword tools will show you that you have to stay away because number one and number two are like really big authoritative sites. So they will tell you to stay away, but you gotta check those articles because they might just rank there because they have these keywords in the title and in the text, but they might not answer the specific question that you are actually considering writing an article about. So you gotta check that, and that is the instance where you can beat those articles. When you check the competition, don't just check the domain authority and how big the site is and if it's Forbes or whatever. Check if they're actually addressing the question in a really good way and if they actually solve the question or the topic that you're looking at. So you will definitely hear otherwise from a lot of SEO gurus out there. So a lot of affiliate marketers are selling links, and that's part of the main business, right? So it's sort of also in their favor to always say that big authority sites will always rank over the smaller sites and you need to do link building. And I think many times it's correct. If you are ranking for affiliate heavy stuff, if you're doing reviews and you're doing stuff that's very, very commercial, or if you're pushing products, then you probably need that EAT or authority or whatever you want to call it. And you want a more established site so Google have more data points on you and know that you have good content overall. But when we're targeting these underserved topics and writing on informational, educational type topics, we don't always need that. We don't need to show Google that we are top of the class with a super heavy site and we have like hundreds of articles on this that's totally on point. You can many times now climb above the other bigger sites, which is really, really cool. And definitely something that makes it easy for us as bloggers generally, and also especially for new bloggers. And something else that's also making our lives a little easier as SEOs and as bloggers these days is that it looks like Google is turning down a notch a little bit on featured snippet. So we see less featured snippets. A lot of the tools are picking up on this. Google also told us, I read this in an article on TechCrunch, that we see up to 40% less featured snippets for search phrases or when people go in Google and search for something that's not very defined. So if they are a little vague and they don't know exactly what people are looking for, they'll be less likely to show a featured snippet. But there's some stats here. For example, SEMrush said that they are seeing less featured snippets, and a tool called Rank Ranger says they're seeing a decline from 12 to 13% down to 8-9%. And the Search Engine Roundtable also touched on this back in February. So this is really cool because the more featured snippets and the more search features up there, the less clicks obviously we will see to our articles. So if Google is turning this down, that means more traffic and more visitors going to our sites. So if you've been following my channel, you know that I lost all my featured snippet across one of my bigger sites in December, so December 1st. So that just happened when Google put out a core update last year. and I got many of these snippets back now. And as other bloggers and YouTubers has also shared, when I lost all the featured snippets, so it's sort of one of these side-wide snippet bans that you'll hear people talk about. And when that happened, I lost around 20 to 25% of the traffic. And I've heard that number come up again and again among bloggers. So that seems to be the amount of traffic people get from featured snippets if they are going after the featured snippet in all their articles. So of course that's a very significant part of your traffic. And if that can be a smaller percentage, it's just great, because if you are experiencing one of these snippet side-wide bans, it's just great that you're not losing 20 or 25% of your traffic, but maybe just 18 or 20%. And I'm also happy to report that I did get my snippets back. Not all of them, but they are starting to come back. And I'll show you a graph here. You will see where I lost the snippets and how they're starting now slowly to come back. So right at this point, I'm getting a few hundred snippets. I'm checking this in SEMrush, and I'm trusting that now I'm out of the ban. I can probably start getting all the snippets back one by one. Another thing that's really cool and that's making life easier in terms of SEO is that we are probably moving toward shorter articles and less of these super long form articles. Yeah, I shared this in a video recently where I showed how Google is introducing this little badge. I don't know if it's gonna be implemented broadly. I haven't seen it much lately in the search results, but it just goes to show that Google have an interest in shorter content, at least when it makes sense. Of course, if you're covering a really big topic, it doesn't make sense to put out 800 words, but many times it does make more sense to just write a short article. It's just nice to see Google testing new features and maybe also encouraging us to stop writing fluff and really just focus on the search intent and try to meet that with a shorter article sometimes. So of course this is in Google's interest, because the shorter articles they need to index, the less computer power they need for the indexing and to understand what the article is about. And this is really great because when we're targeting small underserved topics, it's hard sometimes to push the word count to 1500 or 1800 to beat those other articles. So that's something that I'm testing now. I want to see if I can beat longer articles with a shorter, really great to the point article. And I think the most important component to whether you'll win or not is whether you actually succeed in covering everything that the searcher is looking for. So if you can pack everything into that shorter article, let's say you can do it in 1,000 words rather than 1,500 words, and you just get to the point immediately and you're way more factual, I think you will be able to win. So it's something that I'm testing. So I think the main takeaway here is to avoid fluff and filler content at all costs right now. And as always, if I'm changing what I'm doing like generally and not just testing things, then I'm gonna put it in my course. So if you want to stay updated on how I do things and if I'm doing anything differently, then you need to be inside my course to get all the latest updates. So another thing again that might make things a little easier for us as bloggers is that I think it'll be easier and maybe cheaper to find good writers, because we are in a recession. We're seeing some stuff going on in the financial world that just means that a lot of people are probably gonna lose their jobs, which sucks. But for us, it means that we will have specialists and people with a lot of knowledge within your field of blogging, whatever you're blogging about. We'll have more people with a lot of experience going out of work. So of course we can employ them, we can hire them as writers. And I think we'll see the rates start to come down a little bit again, maybe. So over the last year or so, I have raised how much I pay writers from around 2 to 3 cents to 3 to 4 cents US cents per word. And I've heard many others do so in order to find and keep good writers on your team. So you might be able to find people cheaper, but it takes a long time and they will just jump on the next gig as soon as they find something that's paying a little better. And I'm expecting this to change over the next couple of years, maybe, if we are heading into a longer recession. So that's not necessarily bad for us. So of course we are seeing drops in RPMs. But if you're outside the States, you also benefit from a very strong dollar compared to the euro. So the dollar and the euro is worth the same. So this sucks if you're in the States, because of course your dollars is the same. But if you're taking out those dollars into euros, or as me, into Danish kroners, or into whatever other currency, you'll probably take home a lot more money. So personally, here in Denmark, I think the dollar is worth 25% more in July this year and in August compared to the same months last year. So that's another really cool thing that you can say that sort of even out the drop in RPMs, because we have seen less income from the same number of ads on our sites. It's just how things are in a recession, and I do not think this will last very long in the digital space. I think people will move money toward digital because it's just easier to measure things. That's just my personal opinion. So a lot of you folks also asked about the site I have that lost traffic and then got the traffic back, and the traffic was lost again, where Google sort of couldn't really make up their mind if they should have my site in the index or not. I haven't talked a lot about it because nothing really happened since the last time. The site is still not getting hardly any traffic. So I should say this is a very small site, and it's the only site I have that lost traffic. So it's pretty exciting, I would say, not exciting in a good way, but of course it's never nice to lose traffic, but it's the first time actually I have a site that got hit like that. So it's interesting for me to be able to dive into what's going on. And so far I haven't really figured out what's going on, and I'm really expecting it to bounce back with the current Google Core update. So we'll see if that happens. If you have any questions, if there's anything you think is also playing in our favor right now, if you have any SEO questions or whatever, leave it in the comments. I will read all the comments on this latest video as always. So see you guys.